Hey Amnanda,
Hello,
how are you?
very well. How are you?
All good, all good.
So
So
good
we're
to
just
see
ready
you.
to start, and
Yes,
I'm just going to do a quick introduction before we get into the conversation.
sure.
Okay, so
Yeah.
Amrinder is currently the chef partner at Iktara, which is a delivery-only service offering comfort Indian food, and she has many credits to her name. She received the Best Lady Chef Award for 2015, 2016 from the Ministry of Tourism. She represented India on the Netflix show The Final Table in 2019. And that seemed to be a great year for her because she was Chef of the Year at the Times Food Award. She won the Outstanding Entrepreneur Culinary at the Midday Guide Awards, Chef of the Year at the Condé Nast Traveler Top Restaurant Award. And I think in 2020, she was also a judge on MasterChef India Season 6. One of her idols, the rather notorious chef Marco Pierre White, called her the girl with gold in her fingers. So, Amrinder, good to have you on the show. An
Thank you.
important topic of conversation. So, tell us, what was your first experience of sexism and misogyny in the industry?
For me, it started from culinary school when I was studying.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, like our faculty used to tell us like sweeping comments, like straight up on our faces that, and we were just 8 students, and it was the first year of the chef's course, which was, like a
Okay.
specialized course. And we were 4 girls out of the 8. And we were told that, it doesn't matter if you don't learn because the boys are going to be the breadwinners of the family. You're going to just find a rich husband and get married and never pursue this career. So,
Right.
it's okay. Like you can do whatever. It's all right.
And this was in school. This was in like culinary college. Right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Oh,
And so much so that, in our final year, that particular chef also organized an event where he kept us out of it and he just let the boys plan, execute, and organize the entire event while we were just sitting
okay.
and watching them. Yeah.
But this would have been something for the whole class. I mean, this is something that everyone has to participate in usually, right? So how do you ignore
Yeah.
half your class?
So, yeah, that's what happened. I
Okay.
think when you're in a position of power and you
Mm-hmm.
have a plan, it's possible to execute it.
Okay.
And yeah, and like there were so many other things like not sharing recipes, sending us on a break, finishing a dish, and we would come back and we would see that it's totally different. There were so many things like that. Like I remember when I had to prepare for my food trial, for the campus interviews, and I
Mm-hmm.
had some questions to ask, and he wouldn't tell me the answers. Whereas for the boy who was also preparing for the trial, he went on his scooter and bought carrots for him for his gajar ka halwa.
Wow.
Yeah. So for me, it started from there, where you were
And that's like
like,
really, really blatant. I mean, that's
yeah,
more obvious than I think, but direct slap in your face, so to
yeah,
speak.
yeah, totally. Because I'm not a softie and I've never wanted anything easy in my life. And, challenging situations really excite me and they inspire me and I push myself harder. But this was just like, I was made to feel so small and worthless, even without
Mm-hmm.
giving me a fair chance to, try something and then fail and then say that, you're worthless, you didn't do this.
Right, right.
Yeah.
And how
So
did
for
your
me,
classmates take it? You're the other three girls.
the other girls were also like, oh, this is not right. And, they just felt the same thing that I did feel.
Mm-hmm.
And
And did you take it up with your, sorry, yeah.
for me, I decided to become a chef later in life. I came to Bombay to study BSc and I studied 6 units of life sciences at Sophia's and I was extracting DNA looking out of the lab when I decided, and it was like it happens in the movies and I discovered my true calling and I said I want to become a chef. So I went to this culinary school with my eyes full of dreams and I was very driven and there were
Mm-hmm.
things that I wanted to do and I didn't want to waste any time and everything that was not done right like really bothered me.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, and even my the other girls felt the same. But
Okay.
there was so much. I mean, marks for the practical weren't disclosed, and then the gold medal was given to a boy, and a lot of things happened like that. It was, I couldn't do anything about it because when you're a student, I don't think you can do much.
Okay, you didn't make any complaints or like anything of
No,
that
I
sort.
didn't. No, I didn't. I just had a lot of arguments with the faculty, very, very heated arguments. I remember once I took off my neckerchief. We used to wear this neckerchief and apron. I took it off, I threw it at him, and I walked out of his class. And I said, you get paid to teach, and you don't teach us anything. And I walked out. And you know what he told me? He said, "Oh, you're an alpha militant. How will your husband live with you?" And that was his only worry, because I'm from Assam. So I was like, this is all he cares about. A husband who's not in the scene. Like, come on, give me a break. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, but that's like the whole attitude. I mean, which you brought up. Like, I mean, it's like you're going to get married, and you're going to have a family. So why should I really invest in you or invest anything at all?
Yeah. It's a very brutal environment. I understand. It's super physically taxing. It's hard work. It's physically hard work. You have to be very strong and to be able to endure it. And, it doesn't pay you fancy salaries. It pretty much
Yeah,
takes over your life. And that's the reason a lot of women, your work timings are strange. I mean,
yeah.
it really eats into your personal life. And um I think I lost you in between. There was a pause. Now we're okay. Yeah.
No, yeah.
So it's hard, and that's the reason a lot of female chefs or female workers in this industry do drop out. But
Okay.
everyone's driven at a different degree, and some are passionate, and everyone should be given a fair chance.
Well, clearly you were passionate because you joined and you went into the hotels despite like,
Yeah.
everything going against you. And uh, what was it like working in an institution?
Then I started training as a management trainee, and
Hmm.
that was in 2000 of what was happening in culinary school. And I trained under absolute illiterate men who couldn't do anything better, so decided to cook, and were extremely insecure. And
Hmm.
like even the guys who were with me were traumatized throughout the training. And I was more because I was a girl, and they were like, "You're too small, you're too skinny, you're too short, you're nothing. Like, this is just a
Hmm.
waste of time for you. You're not going to get anywhere."
Hmm. 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 Hmm.
And like the comments they used to pass about other women, like there was a young girl who used to come and with her mother, and she was a performer at the restaurant, and then she lost her mom, and the girl had to come on her own, and she had to walk through the kitchen to go in the evenings to the restaurant to perform. And the kind of comments they used to pass, and I would be like, when you're so young, it's just so like it really dents your brain to think that you're wearing clothes and you feel you have some self-respect, but in their eyes you're really nothing. I mean, when they see women, and a woman is just, probably see the woman naked. That was a
Hmm.
kind of
Hmm.
mentality. I remember once I went into the walk-in cooler. So, at the where the orders were picked up, there was only one under-counter fridge, so they couldn't really stock most of the prep there. So for most orders, you had to run into the walk-in cooler to bring stuff out. And at one
Right.
point, I had gone into the walk-in, and there was this one guy in the kitchen who used to send me like, and those days you didn't have these smartphones or
Yeah.
camera phones and all of that. So they had those funny emoticons, and he used to send me like these inappropriate messages, which I used to
Hmm.
totally ignore. So that day, at one point, I was in the walk-in cooler to grab something, and he also came in. And another commie opened the door of the walk-in cooler, and he saw like I'm trying to grab something from there. He's doing his thing, and he's like, "Oh, I'm sorry, both of you are in here. Like, मुझे पता नहीं था तुम दोनों यहाँ अंदर हो." And then he went out and he made it sound like we were making out in the walk-in cooler.
Okay.
So that was the environment.
Okay. And was this just because you were a trainee? Because I know that there's a lot of hazing that happens in restaurant kitchens when you're a trainee, when you're just joined and everyone's trying to
Yeah,
sell.
you're not
Was that
important.
some? Yeah.
When you're a trainee, you're not important. You have these guys who run your business, and if your restaurant is doing well, you don't want to ruffle any feathers there and create a situation. It's always easier to get rid of the trainee.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And a
No, but
trainee,
did you?
like if a trainee is someone who's like a squeaky wheel, then get rid of that trainee faster.
Hmm, hmm, hmm.
Yeah.
And did you find also that they would not share information with you, that there was no
Oh
training
yeah.
that would go on, or
Yeah, yeah,
yeah?
totally. Yeah, only odd jobs, nothing worth your while.
Okay.
Yeah.
And was this only with you, or was that with all your colleagues, or I mean, how did it?
It
How
was
does this work?
it was with everybody. Only in the Indian kitchens. The other kitchens were much more chilled out because there were more literate people there. There were more like some of our seniors were chefs in those kitchens, and so they made a difference. Like each person can make a big difference.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right,
So
right.
yeah, it was the Indian kitchens, and I trained in the Indian. I had taken Indian cuisine as my specialization, so I trained in the Indian kitchens.
Okay, okay. And did you take it up with the HR of the hotel? Did you speak to
Yes.
the senior chefs?
At one point, it was like I walked into someone making a really nasty comment about me.
Mm-hmm.
That's when I complained to I mean, said something that I don't even feel comfortable sharing right now. And I complained to the HR. They suspended him for 3 days and he was back in the kitchen. I was back in that kitchen as a trainee. So they were like, hey, like stay away from her. She complains and don't give her food to eat and don't teach her anything. Like just outcast.
Yeah. So then, I mean, the complaint actually backfired against you, rather than actually served as a lesson to the person.
Yeah, they're like, we were going to give him an promotion. We are not giving him that this year. And we were going to send him to Paris for a full promotion. We are also not allowing him to go. And we are suspending him for 3 days. And this is what we can do.
Okay.
And I
Okay.
s- and I was like, I didn't feel like he should be behind bars or something. I just wanted, like, as a trainee, what do you want? You just want a conducive work environment because you want to learn and you
Correct.
don't want to waste your time. So I was like, yeah, and I didn't want to get involved in, take stricter action, and that as seniors and as people who run as HODs of the department, it should be their call, like I would now in my kitchen, if there was a young trainee who had a situation like that, I would make sure that I nip that in the bud and ensure that she feels comfortable to come back to the kitchen and work.
Yeah, I was actually coming to that now that, I mean, you are actually a partner, you are running a business, you also run, you were the chef earlier at Earth, where you had your
Yes.
team below you. What are you doing differently, and what have, from what you've learned and what you've experienced?
Every person has, so because of your personality, there's a kind of a vibe that you create in the kitchen. And people below you, it's not bottom up, it starts from top. And people like in our company, Jay and Gauri are super chilled out people. And that's the environment where they're not behaving like bosses. They're very approachable and no one is scared to talk to them. And they're very friendly and they'll encourage you if you have an idea and, own up to if they make a mistake, they own up to it. So that's the environment that's created. And so people want to put in their 100% and they're not scared to talk about something that they feel uncomfortable about. And I think that's the kind of environment, like in my kitchen, it's just, I mean, everyone knows that I'm not going to negotiate if you're mean to someone unnecessarily.
Okay.
I'm not soft on the girls. And my I try and aim to be as fair and treat everybody equally as much as possible, you know.
Hmm.
Just
Right,
because
right.
I have a female chef or a trainee in the kitchen, I'm not going to be extra nice and say, hey, don't give her enough work and just be nice to her. But yeah, don't pass any nasty comments and don't be unnecessarily mean because that's not accepted.
But I'm sure it's happened nonetheless. I mean, even though, because you're not going to be there all the time. So,
Yeah, it happened
as long as you're there, yeah.
it
So what
happened
happens
in
then?
one. So I had two instances in my last job where while I was away, there were two girls in my kitchen and they called me and they complained that, we are being treated very, very badly. One of them used to smoke and she says that because I smoke, these men, they think that I'm available and they just
Hmm.
say anything to me, which makes me very uncomfortable. And and I was away for 6 weeks shooting for the final table. And so I spoke to them and I said, this is not acceptable. Don't do it. They said, no, we're not doing anything. It's fine. And we are all okay and all of that. So
Hmm.
by the time I came back, as in not by the time I came back, but much after I came, like it was not like serious comments, but it was just like judging someone for their personal, for what they did in their personal life. And I spoke
Hmm.
to them saying that just because this girl smokes or she has a boyfriend or she dresses up a certain way, her hair is colored, doesn't mean that you can say anything to her.
Right,
And what she
right.
does in her personal life is none of your business. So it ended there. After a few months, one of the guys tried to kiss her in the walk-in cooler. Or
Okay.
I think he pecked her on the cheek. And then she came and told me. And then when I called him to speak to him, he said, "Oh yeah, मेरे से गलती हो गई, but मेरा ऐसा कोई गलत intention नहीं था." I was like completely, I couldn't believe he said that. I sacked him the same day, and I asked her like if you want me to hand him over to the cops, I would even do that. And she's like, no, I don't want, and I don't even want you to fire him. It's fine. He should know what he did is not right. So I said, no, but I can't have this guy in the kitchen
Hmm.
because
Hmm.
unless I have a camera attached on him and constantly monitor him, like he's going to do something crazy again. So I fired him that day.
Okay, okay. But do you hear a lot of instances of things getting physical in kitchens?
There was another time when a girl accused, so she'd come to train in my kitchen, and then during her culinary school, and then she lost her dad and she had to drop out, and she couldn't even finish her education. So she got in touch with me, and I told her that if she wanted to study, I would sponsor her fee. She said, no, if you can give me a job, please give me a job. So I gave her a job, and she started working, and then she got friendly with to one of the boys and they started hanging out, and then I don't know what happened between them personally, that she one day complained that this guy is acting funny with me. And then we
Okay.
and much later, like 4 months later, she said, oh, in November he did this. And then we had to probe that whole situation, and we found out that she wasn't telling us the truth.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
then
Hmm.
she started bunking work, and then she quit on her own. She just wouldn't show up to work and then say, no, I'm going to come, and then show up one day and then not show up for weeks together. So even that
Hmm.
is another side of the story where
Yeah, but
um,
that is quite tricky, isn't it? I mean, where
yeah,
this other chef could quite easily have been victimized because of her accusation,
yeah.
and it yeah. How do you deal with something like that? Where
So that guy was so hardworking, he was so sincere, and we never had any issue with him. And he'd worked with us many years ago also when we had the same restaurant and it was relaunched. And so
hmm,
I found it very strange for her to, and there were other female chefs in the kitchen who never complained about, no one ever complained about this guy except for this girl. And so we felt like something was up, and
hmm,
that's when we investigated further and we found out that she was just trying to blame him
okay,
unnecessarily for a personal issue.
okay, okay. So
Yeah.
you talked about how you stand out as a leader and like the values that you espouse, Gauri and Jay espouse. But is there something that you have put into place, in terms of either HR policies or systems where your team feels safe or your team feels okay, like there is a problem, there is a process involved.
So we have an HR policy in place where it's called POSH, where you have your core team members as a committee and you also have an external member from an NGO. And
Okay,
in case of a complaint, sexual harassment complaint, the committee takes the call,
okay,
decides yeah. So we've got that in place.
okay. And that is something that is told to
It,
all the team members at the time that they hire, that this is available to them, that
yeah, yeah. When
yeah.
during induction, when they run through all the policies of the company, that's when everyone is made aware that such a thing is, and most people who've been working in hotels and restaurants now, they know about it. Even though it was enforced not too long ago, but it's a law. I mean, it's an act,
Yeah,
I
it's part of
guess.
the law.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. Which
yeah.
actually all companies need to enforce, but not,
Not
I mean, the
everyone
ones
is
that are, not
compliant.
everyone.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
But
Okay, but
we
that
are.
is something. And do you all have any kind of trainings for your team?
I would say only when you hire people, just like when you hire candidates, you just know when someone's progressive and positive and productive, you know. And I always say this, no two people are the same, and your team makes such a big difference. So when you hire people, I think that's when because when you're a small company, it's okay, everything is under control. But when you become bigger, how do you control it? And like, how do you control multiple kitchens at multiple locations? You rely heavily on your team. And so you hire sensible people who you know will have the same kind of sensibility. And that sensibility goes, it's beyond just the kitchen environment. It's also these people who know how to handle a situation.
Right, right. Do you feel
Yeah.
that, I mean, it's also something that is generational, that the younger generation is more sensitive to these issues, and the older generation grew up, well, in
Yeah.
general, and not specifically in the kitchen, but in general, they treated women as property or something that was. Do you find that?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Because if you've grown up in a home where your mom, you've never seen your mother take any decisions or ever being like a important person, yeah, it's very hard for you to deal with a woman at workplace telling you what to do, you know, and being your boss.
Hmm.
It just doesn't, I mean, you just can't take it.
Right,
Versus
right.
now where, yeah, more exposure, literacy. People are traveling, there are more shows on TV, people know what working in a restaurant or a hotel is, thanks to
Hmm.
MasterChef Australia.
Amongst many other things. But
MasterChef Australia number one.
okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
Yeah. But you also see a difference perhaps in the way that, restaurants handle it versus hotels. The reason is because a lot of restaurants are younger, than newer people
Yeah,
into
so
the
much
business.
better. So much
Yeah.
better with everything. Like in a hotel, it's such a babugiri environment still, where you see that something is wrong, but you're not able to fix it because everyone's looking at the short-term goals, from the general manager to your HODs. They're like, oh, let's do something really quickly so that it shows results. We get our KRA and for the year, and that's about it. No one's saying, oh, we should do this today so that 10 years later it gives us all these benefits and you have a solid policy. So I think that happens in a restaurant because restaurants are definitely run by people who are, a lot of the good restaurants that have survived the test of time and have like are there for like say 9, 10 years are mostly passion projects. So you don't
Yeah.
compromise anywhere. Yeah, you love what you do. It's your passion, and so you want to get everything right.
Right. Sure, sure. But I mean, do you feel that this is something that uh, is not widespread? Do you feel that, it's
Yeah,
changing in that sense?
yeah.
From the time that you joined the industry to the time that now you're someone senior in the industry.
It's not widespread. No, it's rare. It's
Really?
yeah.
Okay. Um, Across the board, across cities, or do you think that there is a
I think
different?
Bombay as a city is a lot more chilled out and better work environment. I at least I experienced that from my experience of being a trainee and then my first job being in Bombay, and I've spent so much time here now working in different kitchens. I feel it's a lot more chilled out here than it is up north.
Okay. Okay.
A lot has changed now. My experiences are, I was I studied 2003 is when I graduated from culinary school.
Okay.
So it's been 17 years since. So I'm talking like 20 years from 2000 to 2020. This like so a lot has changed. People are with I think with more exposure, more literacy, more just the scene in the country changing. The one
Hmm,
work
hmm.
environment is also changing. Yeah.
Okay, I mean that's really good to hear, and that's a very very positive note.
Yeah.
Um, but I still don't see a lot of women rising up the ranks in hotels. I mean, I do see a lot of women entrepreneurs. I
Yeah.
do see, I don't see so many women chefs as well heading restaurants, but I see a lot of chef entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
So is that perhaps the change that is happening? Women are deciding to try and take things up for themselves and kind of be the lead the team, so to speak.
Yeah, but you can do that only after you've spent years. Like you have to rise up the ladder. You can't start with being a chef entrepreneur, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so well, if that happens, then nothing like it. I mean, that's the best scenario.
Hmm, hmm. Yeah, but I'm just thinking of the standalone scene. And I'm just trying to
Yeah,
think how many chefs are there whom I can think of immediately who are actually heading restaurants. I can think of many men, but I can't really place too many
because ex
apart
yeah
from
because
pastry and yeah,
because
sorry.
expectations for a woman even at home are different, right? From what they are for a man. A man is, I mean, he's supposed to go to work. He can come home late, and he doesn't have to if he doesn't cook and clean, and he doesn't have to give birth to babies and bring them up, and the women have to do all of that. Plus, then you decide to work in a very brutal environment in the kitchen. Like imagine being 8 months pregnant and lifting hot, being in a hot, sweaty, smoky environment. I mean, it's a tough
Hmm.
situation to be in, and it's not like you're making millions. So, and you can do something else which will pay you. And so, if you're not passionate, if you don't love it sincerely, like if every pore in your body has to say, no, this is what I want to do, and there's nothing else I can do, only then you will endure all of that. And I think that's the reason you don't see a lot of female chefs. Plus, traveling at night is not safe. I mean, you have to travel. You if you're a chef heading a restaurant kitchen, you will go home after dinner service, which is late.
Right.
And then if you don't have your uh, own, if you live far away, if you have to take a local train, it's not going to be safe.
Okay.
There are a
So
lot of
then,
small things like that that make a very big difference, you know. Like a safe city. If you live close to where you work, all of that will help more female chefs to work, I think, in restaurants.
okay.
Now, if
So
someone's coming from Mira Road to Colaba to work and you're a trainee
yeah,
or you're like, say, a commie one, and you can go home only after dinner service, it's not going to be easy.
sure, sure. But it's not going to be easy for the men either. So how do you make it fair for both? I mean, how do you create that opportunity where, you know, both are equally advantaged or be equally disadvantaged? Otherwise, we're always going to be in a
I
world
think
where
for
the man
female
from
chefs, if you
Mira
have a
Road is
supporting family, it makes a very big difference.
okay.
Your support system at home has to be solid. And then at work, there are rules. I mean, after 9:30, you're supposed to give conveyance to female workers.
Hmm.
Hotels have drops for female workers after it starts from 9:40 and then like 11:40, 12:40. They drop you home, no matter where you stay, which makes a very big difference. And so you will see, like you do see, right, in hotels, like women in housekeeping, you see women in service, at the reception, at the
Right,
spa. At
right.
least you see, yeah,
Yeah.
because they get drops at night.
So is that something that the restaurant industry needs to adopt, or is it just too expensive a price?
But there's a rule. I mean, there's a law. You have to uh, adhere to it.
Yeah, but the one way to adhere to it is to have women do the first shift, and then
Yeah,
not have them do. So then they will never ever progress to becoming executive chefs.
yeah. There's a problem because
Yes.
yeah, if you have four female employees and then yeah, it's not going to be very cost effective. So if
Yeah.
you're a female and you have all these things sorted for you, you have a supporting family, then you can do it and you have the passion. So for all of these things to work together, it's not happening for a lot of people, and that's why we don't see a lot of female chefs.
So then it's not as positive, even now for women. I mean, there are a lot of barriers to kind
Yeah,
of moving ahead.
there
You know,
still are.
we've talked a lot about the family, but in terms of an organization,
Yeah.
what do you think can be done to improve things? I mean, this is a very basic thing, obviously, that how do you, sorry, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Yeah, yeah, okay. No, this is something really, really basic, that safety should not really be something that should come in the way of moving ahead uh, in a person's career. So, yeah, yeah, are you
I
getting me?
lost you in between.
Yeah. So sorry, I
Yeah,
was
now I
saying
can
that
hear you.
safety should really not be something that debars people or debars women from moving ahead. There has to be a systemic solution to it. Okay, one is the city and one is the family for sure. That needs to be
Yeah.
improved. But organizationally also, there must be some kind of uh,
If you can provide accommodations, then that'll work. But the question is how much of all this is possible, you know?
yeah.
Yeah, if you have shared accommodation close to your restaurant and you're like, no, I only want like 60% female workforce, then it's possible to do. But then that has to be your drive in the business, the bigger
Hmm.
goal.
So I mean, there is a problem where you are weighing costs and you are weighing change.
Yeah.
This is a difficult it's a difficult business decision to make.
Yes,
You know,
it is.
it is. I
Yeah.
mean, you can have the best of intentions, but you still have to look at the bottom line.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, is there any way around this, or I mean, how does one move forward then?
Like, see, now I had one female chef in my kitchen at Iktara, and her dad didn't allow her to work during COVID,
Okay.
and she went back home. So there's so many such situations which are not in your control, right? There's a girl who wrote to me for 6 months requesting me to allow her to work in my kitchen. I pretty much like when the moment I had a spot, I reached out to her and I said, "Hey, you really wanted to learn now? Come join, tomorrow." And she's like, "Oh, I'm so excited. Thank you so much." Next day in the morning, she sends me a message saying that my dad's not letting me come. He doesn't think it's the profession I should choose. I won't be able to come. I'm really sorry. So,
Wow.
yeah, so that's why I say, like, trust me, family, having your own commute, if you live close to where to work, really will does make a very big difference.
Okay. Fair enough. Amninder, thank you so much. I mean, we had a lot of positive notes to hear from you that things have improved so much in the last 20 years. But I have the sense that there is still a long way to go. There is still a lot of things that need to change in society and in organizations as well before we can actually see some sense of gender parity in the industry.
Yes.
But it was great hearing from you and listening
Thank
to you share your experiences. So
thank you
thank
so
you so
much for
much for that.
having. Thank you.
My pleasure. And thank you everyone for listening in. We will be back on Wednesday at 6 p.m. Till then, stay safe, stay well.